All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Green White Checker TV, where tonight we have the Area 51 Indy Oval Series here at Pocono Raceway, and it will be 105 laps tonight. And right now on track is 105-degree track temperature, 66 degrees ambient, as drivers putting down their qualifying laps as we speak for tonight's event. And we're getting down to the thick of it here. After tonight, there are 3 races remaining. Phoenix Raceway next week off followed, and then Kentucky Speedway, and then a week off to Auto Club Speedway for the finale on April 28th. Say apologies for the kind of the longer off week. Scheduling kind of got mixed up a little bit, and so, but very glad to be back here tonight, get the final 4 races in the season, and be crowning a champion and not too far away. And with the championship right now, it is still Mark Murphy with a 65-point lead over Eric Schaus. Matt Wagner in third spot, 77 out of the lead. And then you got Nick DeGroot there, 107 out of the lead, followed by Joe Branch in the 5th position, 151. It's a really tight fight, really from 5th to about 10th or so. It's less than, I think, about 30 points between that group. So really really good fight there for that top 5 spot, so we'll definitely be keeping an eye on that as well, not just the championship battle. So we've got just a little bit of time left here to go. Drivers still putting some laps down, just starting to see the first laps click in here tonight. Again, 2.5 mile oval. Say this is one of those tracks like Indianapolis. It is a track where you can pit and not lose a lap, so we'll see if that comes into play at the timing of cautions if they occur, when those may happen. And speaking of pit stops and such, hearing it's going to be pretty close on fuel at the 105 lap number. Drivers are saying full rich, full send, probably around 26 or so laps on a tank of fuel. So based on that, they might have to do a little bit of saving to try to get to that magic 105 number. So we'll have to kind of see what the strategies are for these drivers here tonight.
Yeah, Gael, good to be with you tonight. It's Pocono is always kind of one of those tracks that's a wild card because it's such a high-speed track, and who knows really what they have in store until the end of the race. It's kind of one of those things where dirty air really plays a factor, and it could play a factor early on. You'll probably see a lot of drivers kind of playing around with the dirty air and trying to see what line works for them. It's a very hard track to pass at, despite it being such a high-speed circuit. So I don't think anyone's going to be giving away anything of what they know how to do during the race. And I think it'll be very interesting to see. I can't really pick a favorite here right now, but as you mentioned, the championship is very close from about 5th on back there. And the big question everyone's been asking all season is who can put Mark Murphy down? And it doesn't seem like anyone has been able to do that thus far because of his dominance thus far.
Yeah, there have been a couple shots taken, but nobody's been able to really go after him too hard. I'm looking at the season, and he's right now the only multi-winner of the year with the 3 wins. Everybody else, of course, having just the 1 win. The ones, again, I mean, makes sense for 2nd and 3rd, just looking at the numbers. Matt Wagner and Eric Schaus having 7 top 5s to Mark 8, and then also all 3 of them, though, having 9 top 10s. And also, did Dooney mention that does include 1 drop week? So basically, that's dropping each of their drivers' worst races, or Nick DeGroot's case, missed a race. So right now, it's showing all of his 9 races just because of that's what he had. So as the races continue, that's going to be something to keep an eye on, is which drop week maybe it does, and that could shake up the running order as well. And Andrew, let's say, I don't know if you know it offhand. We were talking about it a little bit pre-race, but this track modeled, each 3 turns modeled after a separate part of the track. I know Indianapolis is one. We're trying to figure out the other 2. I had mistakenly guessed Nazareth. I don't think that was right. I want to say the other one was Milwaukee, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if you know those offhand or not.
Yep. That you got 2 of the 3. One, I believe turn 2 is labeled off the Indianapolis Speedway. Turn 3 is Milwaukee, and turn 1 is actually Trenton. If you think back to the Trenton track, I don't know the Trenton track myself, but that's what I hear. I know it's Trenton, Indy, Milwaukee, all the way around.
All right, and so yeah, so I was gonna cause a little bit of trouble and kind of be like, all right, is Pocono a 3-turn track or is it going to be a 6-turn track? Kind of see what the thought process is. There's a lot of drama over that one, which is always a lot of fun.
Definitely depends who you ask, because people have different opinions of what the how many turns are on the circuit and who's turning where and everything. And I'm sure at some point during our broadcast tonight we're gonna say turn 4. It's just gonna happen.
Yeah, it'll be fun to see and to go over. And I have to say, the car we're focused on right there, Craig Forsyth, he was saying it's a 5-turn track due to the fact that the Indianapolis turn is it's based off that. So there's 2 turns at Indy. So it's like, well, that would be turns 2 and 3. And so we've been having a lot of fun with that one pre-race. So we'll have to kind of see what the official decision's going to be. But before we get to that, though, Andrew, we got to get to the starting grid, and it is going to be Edson Santos on the pole by 0.005 of a second over Eric Schaus. Only 1/1000 second further back is Matt Wagner in the 6 car. Then you've got Craig Forsyth right next to him. Mark Murphy, again, our championship leader there in 5th. Then Nick Wheeler, Eric Peterson, Mason Mitchum, Charles Teed, AJ Hobson are top 10. And then 11th on back, you've got as well in here Rick Sanchez 11th there. Jim Herrick in 12th, and then Jeff Heisong, Joseph Morales, Christopher, Nick DeGroot, Daniel DeRozzo, Hugo Galaz, and Bill Colley will be our 19 starters for tonight.
One thing about Pocono that is easily forgotten is how difficult it is to pass here. And I mentioned it in the pre-race opening there. It's very hard to go from, say, 15th up to the front here just because of the high speeds and the different dirty-air lines that everyone kind of takes around here. So a lot of these guys that had a poor qualifying, they're going to be looking for an alternate strategy to try and put themselves farther up front. We were talking about how Mark Murphy had such a dominant season. He is not starting up on the front row. He's going to have a little bit of a difficulty there starting in 5th place. I'm pretty sure that these guys are going to want to try and displace him as best as possible there. Nick DeGroot back there in 16th place. I wish I could tell you what his strategy might be. And I wonder how many exactly strategy calls he might actually employ tonight. But I think we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, it'll be fun to see what the strategies are going to unfold for tonight. And again, I mean, it sounds silly, but those 5 extra laps, I mean, it's going to really throw a potential wrench into some of the strategies for these guys. Because now, okay, you got to account for 5 more miles of the race. I was joking around with Matt and some of the guys pre-race, where basically the extra five laps here, which actually obviously more than 5 miles, is basically kind of the built-in green-white checkered for a normal 100 lap race. So that's the excuse I'm going to be going with here tonight.
It's a good enough excuse for me.
So no, it'll be a lot of fun. And also, we're gonna be mixing it up here tonight. We're gonna get confused tonight because we've got some dueling paint schemes in row number 2. You've got Craig Forsyth in that number 99, that Forsyth paint scheme. He's got 40 Racer on the side. However, Matt Wagner in the 6 on the inside, he's got that same paint scheme, except his shows Forsyth on the side of that car. So I'm kind of deeming tonight that Matt is being sponsored by Craig Forsyth in that number 6 machine. So we'll see. Maybe it's gonna be a good luck charm for that number 6. All right, as the pace car comes out of turn number 3, you see the what turn 4 on the wall, or could it be turn number 6? It's up to you to decide what you want to have it be, but it's going to be Edson Santos leading the field here to the green. As the green flag waves, we are underway here tonight at Pocono Raceway as the 72 and the 20 lead the charge into turn 1 right now. And Mercedes Schaus has just a nose ahead. Now it's going to be that fight for clean air from 3rd on back.
And a bit of a 4-wide situation there going down the front straightaway, which always happens here at Pocono Raceway. Cars kind of just bottle up, and then you never really know how it's going to turn out, but it looks like it's going to be a single file situation going down towards turn 2.
Yeah, it looks like Edson able to grab that spot going in. Matt Wagner's going to try to jump ahead, though. Got that draft, got the inside lane. You can see in the back there, very busy, but so far so good through the tunnel turn as well. And then again, now tires temp starting to build up, but this is an easy turn to overdrive, drift a little wide. But again, looks like so far so good. Lap 1 clean. Matt Wagner going to lead that first lap.
Yeah, that cold tire situation that you always get at the start of the race. Not really sure how your tires are going to heat up and everything, but everyone seems to have made good progress. Looks like Chris Stouffer has, as usual, picked up a lot of positions there at the start of the race. He's already up to P6.
I honestly feel like if we get the opportunity, we should almost watch that opening lap from Christopher's point of view if we get the opportunity, because you're right. He gained 9 spots on that opening lap. That's just incredible. I mean that's the confidence in knowing what that car is going to do on the cold tires, potentially in the dirty air, having the right adjustments for the car in that situation. He's probably already had to dial in some adjustments back to now with those tires warming up. So, yeah, 9 spots gained in a lap is nothing short of incredible. That's a hell of a first lap.
Yeah, I think one of the things you got to consider is that he knows everybody around him is going to overdrive. So if he just kind of dials it back a little bit on the cold tires and just kind of make sure he makes those corners, both turn 2 and 3 in particular, once those tires really start to warm up, if he knows everyone's pushing wide and he kind of already predicts that everyone's going to do that, it's a very easy way to pick up spots. And that's kind of what catches people out at the start of races, is not remembering how cold the tires are. And I think he did it to perfection. Looks like he's actually going to be going for 5th place here with Mark Murphy down the front straightaway.
Yeah, and you can see they're both trying to fight for that draft right now. You can see they're both trying to steal a little bit of the draft. Now it's more in Mark's favor. However, Chris is going to have that inside line, and then it's just that you're at the mercy of where that car in front of you is. Do you have the draft? And you see once more stay side by side, and that draft train is going to kind of again benefit Mark Murphy, although you see a little connection issue there, and Stouffer's going to fall back in line there. And we've seen, unfortunately, I was talking to Mark a little bit pre-race, and he had mentioned there were some storms in the area recently, and so basically the internet he had just kind of disappeared. Actually, we're going to go back here as we got a good little fight now. AJ Hobson trying to make a move on Stouffer, and that just shows the momentum shift there. He had to back it down a little bit. AJ Hobson saw the opportunity. He has to jump for it, and here comes that snake down the front stretch that we are so used to seeing it here in Indianapolis.
I was checking to see who's kind of riding that dirty air train in turn 3, and it looks like Jeff Hysong actually managed to figure out something there. He had a little bit of a run going down the front straightaway at some of the guys that he's battling up in front of him there, and unfortunately he couldn't really carry it into turn 1 because I think he hit just a little too much tight going there into turn 1, but he lives to fight another day, and I'm sure Jeff will try and measure what the dirty air situation is for these guys up ahead of him. As you see, he dies for a little bit of clean air there.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting to see the strategy. You saw Nick DeGroot as well in 3 running very, very low there as well, just trying to keep that clean air on the front wing of that car. And so, yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see how the strategies play. We talked about the fuel possibly being a little bit tight, so wondering if right now Edson's probably really happy being that second car in line, able to save some fuel, let Matt Wagner set the pace, burn the extra fuel in the number 6 car. And I think you see the same with Schaus and Craig Forsyth. Same thing. I think they're pretty content right now. They don't want to push too hard, burn all that fuel up. And there's going to be the others that just, they want to get forward and then start to think about that strategy. And I think that's where we saw AJ Hobson, Christopher. They want to charge forward and then start thinking about fuel. They don't want to be in the teens, kind of work on the fuel mileage there. And see, here goes Stouffer. He's going to try to run that top side here through 1 and 2. And again, stealing a little bit of draft off of that number 69 in front, Mark Murphy. And you can see right there, you can see as soon as Mark Murphy cut to the bottom, I don't know if you could catch that there, Andrew, but as soon as he did that, you could see the wash off of that number 4 car. Had to get out of the throttle or else he was going to drive right up into the outside of that 13 car. That's what we talked about for that aero tie. I mean, that was a perfect example of it.
Well, it's not just actually the 69 car that had that. It was actually Charles T that was side by side with Christopher going through turn 1 there. It looked like Charles T had a little bit of dirty air and he had nowhere to go but to kind of push up the track a little bit. Looks like the top 5 or so has kind of strung out a little bit in a single file formation there, so that's very typical of Pocono. Everyone's trying to figure out if they're going to save fuel or if they're going to go forward. The saving fuel folks, though, will start to drop back a little bit.
Oh, big hit for Nick DeGroot there. Not a mistake you're used to seeing. Huge hit. I don't think that car is going to be able to limp back to pit road. Yeah, there's the toe, and that's going to be their first yellow of the race, and that was a brutal hit there. We were watching, kind of just catching the corner of our eye there. So we'll jump back here and we'll take one more look at this because that was a really hard hit for Nick here. So let's go back and we'll
brutal hit, and Nick DeGroot is not in the same vocabulary for me. So this will be interesting to see.
Yeah, same. We'll back up a little further here because I'm watching the lane he is in. and I don't see anything yet that stands out to me that tells me at least like, okay, no, he's in trouble here. He's running that third seam. You can see each seam individually, pretty obviously, but then I think maybe it's right there. You see that votive or the VRL car in front, and I think he just washes up. Yeah, just catches the wall on the outside, not a ton, but it just ricochets him down to the inside here and just launches off off the inside wall right back across the track, right in between a couple cars there, Rick Sanchez and Joseph Morales. And then you also see Hugo Galaz and Bill Colley able to kind of duck underneath. So that's, yeah, like I said, that's not a mistake we often see from Nick, but unfortunately a huge hit. And again, talk about the championship standings. He was fourth in points, so we'll have to see how he can recover. Again, he took a tow quickly. Now it's going to just depend on can he get out of pit road before the leaders come around and trap him a lap or more down. So, but this, to me now, Andrew, this takes the fuel mileage out of it. Now at this point, these guys know, hey, we can make it now on a 3-stop race from here with no fuel saving. So we may not see the train that we saw a little earlier.
It's going to be interesting to see how many people come down pit lane, because if the leaders all come down, which it seems like they're implying that they are, a lot of mid-pack folks are going to stay out here because tire wear is not such a big thing at Pocono here. Track position means everything. So it looks like we have
one
the top.
gambler.
Yeah, it looks. I'm shocked actually. I would have taken this spot if I were a Charles T or a Jeff Hysong or Jim Herrick or Daniel Durazo. Stay out, get the track position, and see how the race kind of unfolds from there. But it looks like everybody's coming down for new rubber. It looks like someone's actually completely missed their box. I think that's Rick Sand. No, actually it was Stouffer. Chris Stouffer had to kind of do a 3-point turn to get back into his box again. So that's going to lose him a lot of spots.
So he's going to do it all over again.
Well out of the top 10 now. So, but if anyone could do it, it's a Chris Stouffer. So,
yeah,
that's unfortunate for him.
Yeah, so now it kind of nets him 2 spots down from where he started. So yeah, he's going to have a lot of work once more ahead. And the one difference is, of course, this restart will be single file instead of double file. So we'll have to keep an eye out on that. And you can see, though, Nick DeGroot's still waiting for that tow on pit road. So unfortunately, he does get trapped that 1 lap down. And so, yeah, so we'll have to wait and see. And do have to say good evening to Belva. Looking forward, hoping for a new winner tonight. And I'm going to go out on a limb here, Andrew, and say that the car that she's hoping is going to get the win is going to be right here. That number 5, Rick Sanchez. Not one that is shy from victory lane on the super speedway side of things. However, again, just I think the first season I want to say for him racing with these things, and Rick's just one of those dudes. If there's something that he can race and he likes the people and he can hang out with and just learn and do what he can do, that's exactly what Rick does. So it's always fun having him in these things. It'll be fun to see what he has. And then Brandon Briggs popping in as well. Co-commentator over in the super speedway side of things with Boomer on Thursdays, myself on Sunday. So I say Brandon's he wants Talladega on the schedule here. Andrew, what do you think about that for these cars?
Talladega could be a fun little outing here for these guys. I'm sure they haven't really raced anything like that before, but Area 51's always looking for new ways to get new tracks on the schedule. So I wouldn't be adverse to it myself, but I'm not sure how the cars would actually race.
I think they've had some week 13 events with those cars at Talladega, so I don't recall how it went, but it would be an interesting one to see. And I can tell you, Nick DeGroot is back on track. You see him jumping back to pit road as we speak. He's going to top off. Maybe he didn't even take tires or fuel just to make sure he doesn't lose any extra time there. So he's going to come in for service, maybe just to get that extra splash of fuel. Bill Colley doing the same in the 31, which I think is a great call for Bill as well. Again, if you're kind of a little further back, just get the extra splash. It's a 2.5 mile track. Every little bit you can save is going to be important here. So we'll see what happens. Joseph did stay out like you talked about here, Andrew. The only driver opting to take the gamble for track position. So now we just have to see how far does he stay up there, because he is now plus 13 from his starting spot. So again, now we'll kind of have to see where he cycles out. If he stays top 10, I mean, it's a net gain. Just now it's going to be all about, can he make that fuel number like the rest of these guys can do now?
Well, I guess it's more of a question of can Nick DeGroot get a lucky dog situation here, because he is a lap down. He's got fresh new rubber and everything going on there, so he has something going for him. But he's going to need some sort of extra caution here in order to kind of get himself back on track here. And it's quite possible. We've seen this happen many times before.
Oh yeah, no, it definitely is an opportunity that will happen. A good chance of it happening at some point. We saw the mistake he had. We know what Dirty Air can do. That can easily happen to somebody else. And yeah, also another driver that lost a few spots on the pit stop cycle is Craig Forsyth. And I say he may have had to back it up a little bit too, as I was looking at the pit times, and Craig was around 10 seconds. You mentioned Christopher, about almost 15 seconds. As we get back to green again, now these guys got to make sure they mind their P's and Q's. No accordion effects on the restart, and it is a nice and clean start. So now they head back into turn one. Got to build that tire temp up if you're those guys that pitted for tires.
Yeah, Christopher kind of found himself in the middle of a wall of cars up ahead of him, so his run to the front may be kind of hampered a little bit, but don't count Chris out yet. He looks like he always has something kind of up his sleeve there, running up a little bit high and kind of outrunning these guys. And these guys on the cold tires are going to struggle in turns 2 and 3, and I think Chris is going to take advantage.
Yeah, you can see right now trying to work on the inside there of the 5 Rick Sanchez. Right in front of him is that number 57 of Hugo Galaz. And like I say, right now he's got a wall of cars. So like I said, he wasn't able to get what he did on the initial start. And same thing, all these drivers, they have that initial start under their belts. So they said, okay, I was able to do this last time. Let's try this now. And so they were able to make something happen. And up front, though, Eric Schaus now, he's taking the point over Matt Wagner in that number 6 machine. Again, that's not Craig Forsyth in second. He's a little further back there in those matching paint schemes. So right now, and here goes the swap draft here. And let's talk about that, Andrew. How does it, we know about the swap draft at like an auto club in a Michigan, tracks like that. Oh, we got trouble in the back. Think there was contact out of the tunnel turn, I believe, with the 5 and the 57. 57 obviously getting the worst of it and might be able to limp this thing back to pit road. I think he might be able to make it happen. But let's go back here, watching entering the tunnel turn. You see the 5, you see the 57. I'm going to say likely, just from where I see these guys, likely just a case here of, I think, aero wash most likely is what I think we're going to see here.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think Rick might have carried a little too much speed in there, which happens. There's nothing wrong with that in turn 2, and he tried to pedal it down. There might have been a little bit of a net code.
A little bit of net code, yeah, as well. But yeah, you could see
I think even so, both cars are kind of headed at the wall there. So it was going to be a close one, regardless of the net code or not. So I wouldn't really put that down on anyone. That's just good hard racing in the middle of the pack. And unfortunately for Hugo, it looks like I think he's going to have to take a fast repair here.
Yeah, I think you are correct on that one too. There's no way. So we'll jump back live. We'll see if he's been able to get to pit road, and not yet. But however, you can see he's caught the field that are under yellow. And so that's, again, he'll be able to get that fast repair. And you talked about it at the get-go here, the driver that needed to have a yellow to get back into this one. He's going to basically get one right off the kick here. That's going to be that number 89 of Nick DeGroot, have a chance to get back after it, of course, minus his fast repair. Same thing going to be for Hugo, but they're both still on the lead lap, have a chance for this one. And now the strategy, again, is going to be that pit road here. I don't think we're going to see a lot of drivers come in this time around. I do wonder about Joseph Morales, and no takers there. It's going to be in the mid pack here. Oh, late lunge there, back out. AJ Hobson flirting with that pit wall.
It was definitely one of the situations where guys are going to keep topping off in the back. You're not really going to see much adverse to that. So I think that some guys are going to top off here. But unfortunately, you're just sitting there in the back in the dirty air. And we saw what Christopher had to deal with on the restart. If you have a little bit of a kind of a wall of cars that are ahead of you and don't really know exactly how you're going to fare there. But these guys are all just, no one's taking tires. Everyone's just doing a quick splash of fuel. And that gives actually a lot of opportunity for some of these mid-pack guys, or mid to, I guess, around like the 10th to 15th place guys that may not have pit, to jump up a few spots and see what the track position's like a little farther up. Someone like Daniel Durazo or Jeff Heisong or Eric Peterson.
I was about to say, I was going to say the same thing there for Daniel Durazo. He's now up 10 spots into 7th from that move. So right now he and Joseph Morales, the highest climbers because of their pit strategy. And I don't know if there's a big gain by pitting on lap 14 now versus the lap 9, so we'll kind of keep an eye on that. And the other thing I got to mention, we don't have everything official yet. But we'll jump over to his number 40 4D Racewear car, and there are some things in the works. He's been showing me some stuff. I say if you're part of the Area 51 Discord, he's got some requests. Maybe what type of glove you like the best. Namely, I want to say it's like the wristband area of the glove. So
the long glove and the short glove.
Yeah. So Andrew, if you haven't done that, put a vote in, because that might play a role into what gloves get brought into play from 40 Racewear. Again, always got a big thank you, big shout out to Jim and everybody with the 40 team. Like I said, they've been a huge supporter of the broadcast of the league, and obviously we've seen that logo on a lot of vehicles within this league, other leagues. Even saw one of the 40 Racewear cars in the 12 Hours of Sebring this past weekend. So I'll say Jim's definitely doing a lot with his company and the products that he's got coming out. And again, I can't spoil them yet because they're still in the works, but I can tell you there's definitely some great stuff coming soon out of that 40 Racewear camp. So looking forward to it. I'm gonna have to figure out what I want to kind of do some impulse purchases on, because I know my hands were sore after the 12-hour, Andrew. I made a bad decision to do a two driver 12-hour race, and yeah, I was feeling it at the end, and I think I would have been a lot happier with some nice comfortable gloves to kind of just have that little extra cushioning.
Well, I'm glad you asked me to race with you, because I could have been a third driver there, but I guess I'm not good enough.
Oh, well, now that I know you're available, I'm gonna be taking you up on that offer, because
it just happened to be this one time. I'm usually racing with my Team Camara guys, but in this one instance, you could have asked me. I would have jumped in and helped. But are you saying the voting is still open right now? Because I have not put my vote in yet, and can I really tip the scales if it's just my one vote?
You can always tip the scales, and I think you can choose more than one option as well. I think right now Jim just wants to get a good number. So yeah, check it out, and it's in the Discord. I want to say it's in the general chat of the IndyCar side of things, but definitely if you can, I'll say for those that are watching, let your driver you're rooting for know. Make sure that they've voted as well, because maybe that's a good birthday, Christmas, Father's Day present. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Find the glove that will suit them well. So. But yeah, I'll say we go from 140 car to a 40 paint scheme car, which was Craig Forsyth. But again, you got Forsyth on the side, but it's Matt Wagner driving. We'll figure it out here eventually, though, as we're about to get back to green here.
I like to shout back out to Matt Wagner, who's listening to me right now, talking about this, saying I will make my vote soon. But we're about to go green here. Hopefully Matt's paying attention. We're going back green. Looks like we have a nice formation going. Everyone's kind of got it going very smoothly, single file through the entire field. No one's really popped out yet, but I'm wondering if some of these mid-pack guys that have kind of moved a little bit forward are going to try and see if they can make any moves now that some of the cars have cleared out.
Yeah, I think one of those, we saw the big move to maybe hit pit road, but then we saw AJ make that late dive back out onto the track there. And he's one of those ones that gains some spots and wasting no time, jumps around Joseph Morales. Again, Joseph's the only driver yet to pit in this race. Everybody else pitted at that first caution at lap 9. And then from Craig Forsyth on back, pitted at lap number 14. Craig right now in the 9th position. So right now, like I said, everybody's starting to build that pace back up. Here goes Eric Schaus one more time. He's going to take a look back inside. And before we had that yellow, and I'm not going to bring it up yet because we got some really tight battling here at the very back of this main pack here. You've got Hugo Galaz there. You got Rick Sanchez, Mason Mitchum, Nick DeGroot there, Bill Colley as well. It doesn't matter where you are on track here. You're going to try to get all you can here, but they got to make sure they get reorganized because they don't want to lose that number 40 car in front of them.
What a great opportunity for Joseph Morales. He hasn't pit yet, and track position is everything in this Pocono race, and he usually finds himself kind of mired in the mid to the back part of the pack, but now he gets to race up front with a little more clean air than he's used to, and yes, his tires are slightly more worn than normal, but he gets quite an opportunity here to see what it's like to race with the guys up front. And coming from someone who used to race in a position like that, it means everything to try and see what the guys ahead of me are doing and what kind of lines they take and just learn from the best. So that's only good things for Joseph Morales. Good to see him up here, and hopefully his strategy plays out and he's able to kind of keep up with these guys up here.
The car I've been watching is Daniel DeRozzo. He just about found a little bit of room to squeeze in there between Teed and the wall, and I think he thought better of it at this point in the race. But you can see right now he is going right there. You can see the sparks flying. He is running as high as he could there in turn 3, and again he's just trying to, here comes the snake again. You can see these guys That's Matt Wagner right there up front. He's trying to break the draft. Everybody's chasing. Look how far that snake goes. It goes all the way from the front to the back of the pack, because that's how much the draft matters down these very, very long straightaways here after turn 1 or after turn 3 and turn 1. I'll see Mark Murphy. We mentioned the connectivity issues. His is starting to kind of reoccur a little worse now, so that's going to be a little concern for Christopher's, the next one behind him. However, also Mark's dropped about a second back off of Craig Forsyth, so there's that little bit of a wiggle right now between the two of them. So they have to make sure that they don't drop. Again, that, to me at least, Andrew, 1.5 seconds or so is kind of the magic number for draft versus no draft. So, and I'm loving the lanes that we're seeing out of these guys right now.
Yeah, well, one of the things with Pocono for sure is that when you have all the stack up like this, and the guys that are kind of running side by sides, like kind of marginally, but mostly single file, it gives opportunities for Murphy and Stouffer to catch back up to the pack again, because everyone's got to kind of lift to find out where their car works best in turn 3 in particular. And you could see that just in the last lap, they've closed back up to this pack again. So it's very hard to get away around Pocono unless you're really, really working on some sort of swap draft situation. It doesn't really seem to have been that effect so far. And of course, the snaking situation that we see going on with the leaders kind of breaks that group up even more and gives more opportunity for guys that may have fallen off the back of the pack a little bit to kind of come back up again. But once they come back up, they also have to figure out what the guys around them have been doing to get back a few more spots. So it kind of has broken this group of top 11 or 12 up a bit, but it's not so bad that they haven't lost the pack and can make up a spot or two here or there.
Yeah, and right now I saw AJ Hobson. He made a big move on the front stretch there. You could see between he, Charles Teed, and Eric Schaus, it was really tight. Look how well Eric Schaus there ran the inside lane, was able to clear Charles Teed, and got a huge run as well off the back of that 4 car. So we'll see what they try to do. And yeah, here he goes. He's going to take a look entering 1. And again, now they got to be looking in front of them, see where are their competitors. And it was close between the two of them, but it will be Schaus grabbing that 3rd spot. But here comes that 4, going to try to get right back after him.
I'm trying to see that. I believe Joseph Morales is starting to struggle a little bit now, racing next to Charles Teed. We had Jeff Hyson that was also trying to kind of make a move there, but I think it was a little too far inside for him to do. But these guys that are kind of on this extra strategy of not pitting are starting to get that little bit of tire wear, and they're dropping back a little bit, but it's still a net advantage for them that racing down in the 14, 15, 16 positions.
Yeah, no, exactly right. And of course, the other thing, too, is, again, you can pit here without losing a lap, so there's not as big of an advantage of being able to pit later. But the one advantage could be as we get, it's out there, Rick maybe just kissed the wall there a little bit off of turn number 1. But the other potential advantage, though, is when you get to those later stops, have to put a little less fuel in the car, maybe shorten that pit stop a teeny bit. And we've always talked about how every little bit counts. I just saw DeGroot way down the inside line there. Not sure if he had a moment or not, or maybe just trying to find some fresh air there on the straightaways. But yeah, again, I think, again, these guys starting, some of these drivers getting a little bit tight. But as up front, though, it's now Matt Wagner, Edson Santos. They're creeping away from 3rd place Eric Schaus here. I think when he and Hobson have been fighting, that may have let Matt and Edson start to try to sneak away a little bit. But again, this also might be the swap draft. I don't think these two are fighting really. I think this is that cooperation to try to run away a little bit.
It's definitely starting to kind of thin out a little bit up front, and we got some more stacking up of guys right behind Joseph Morales that he's kind of battling with these guys around him to try and stay around, and he's actually doing a pretty decent job of kind of holding his position here. But once you start to get that dirty air, especially once these tires wear, it's very difficult to make anything happen unless you have any sort of clean air. And clean air is kind of king around here, and it's very difficult to find once you have 4 or 5 guys up ahead of you that kind of block your lane and kind of block your approach and how you do that.
Yeah, and right now you can see that there's just the organization up in the top 2. It is working very well. You can see they've gotten to about that 1.5 second margin. So now it's going to be up to these two here. At the moment now, it's going to be AJ Hobson, Charles Teed. They're going to need to return the favor. They got to start thinking about, all right, we got to make the swap draft happen, or else we're not going to get back up to those two. So they're going to have to start working together a little bit. But you can see Teed did not get a good exit out of 3. And so again, Hobson's just on the outer edge of that draft, but Again, as they get into turn number 1, though, is again about 1.6 seconds. So this is gonna be a tough job now for third, fourth, and fifth on back to try to chase these leading 2, because they're working very well together right now.
All right, Gael, I'm officially upset now.
What you got?
If you look at Kawabe has decided to comment on the tracks in the iRacing or the YouTube chat there.
iRacing Super Speedway. I wonder how fast these cars can go there.
And that is not a track I'm looking to commentate at all, because that is just a complete and utter disaster waiting to happen. So Kawabe, I appreciate you shouting that out, but I'm not really sure how I feel about that.
We'll let him be the one to kind of crash test it and see how it goes before we.
He's your blood, Gael. He's your blood. I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Yeah, knowing him, I say that's a full peanut gallery ingest suggestion. Knowing my brother pretty well, so
either that he could race it, or I'll just step aside and let him commentate with you and see. I'll just sit there and watch it happen.
I'll let you race, but. The one I'm watching
Absolutely
right now,
not.
Daniel Durazo, he's been on a move. I say he's now up to the top 5. He's gained 12 positions from his starting spot. Again, talk about those that stayed out to gain a little bit of track position on that second yellow. And I think right now he's definitely been one to capitalize on it by far the most. But then also look at Joseph Morales still hanging in there. Again, has not pitted yet. Couldn't quite clear Eric Schaus. That's going to cost him a ton of momentum here down the short chute. As, look at that move there by Haisong. Saw Joseph slide in front. He says, no thank you, I want to get there, but doesn't have the clean air. He's going to have to give it back to the 60. So that 60 car still staying very racy as well, as Durazo and Hobson there were fighting for that third spot. And I think for the fourth spot, I think Durazo is going to grab it. And now look at Charles Teed. He's now one leading the fight to try to chase these top 2, and he's kind of now in his own little pocket in that number 50 car.
You know, Durazo kind of put himself in that awkward spot in between Hobson and the wall going into turn 2, and it kind of scared Hobson, I think, a little bit, because Hobson turned a little early to try and avoid any sort of maybe contact there, and it kind of put him offline a little bit. And next thing you know, Durazo makes an outside move there. So Durazo has a very sneaky way of trying to get positions here, and it's working, but it's very, very risky. And I'm not sure if he can get away with that every time, but Hobson's going forward, back again on the inside here. But I believe that the outside line's starting to work more now as these tires begin to wear more and more.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is as you start to wear more, you're going to get that kind of that momentum is going to start to play a bigger role, where you run the short distance, yes, but you just can't carry the same kind of speed out. And so that's why you see right here the 4 car gets to the inside but cannot quite clear. And then it's all about who grabs the draft of that car in front. Right now you see where Charles Teed is. That's going to give the advantage back to Daniel Durazo. But I got to give a big shout right now to Charles Teed, because he's doing what nobody else was able to, and he's starting to break that 1.5 second margin on Matt and Edson, as he's now closed into about 7/8 of a second there. As you see, big tight there out of turn 3. And it's, again, that's him starting to get that draft, starting to get that aero wash. So he's going to have to try to figure out where to position that car to make sure he can get as much cleaner on those front wing as possible.
Yeah, and this is definitely one of those things that you're watching with Joseph Morales sitting here. Just got passed for 7th place, but I think he might get that spot back, as it actually looks like Haisong might have touched the wall there. But yeah, this is definitely something to keep in mind, that the track position is much more important than the fresh tires. And guys that have stayed out and have managed to kind of hang out towards that mid-pack, as long as you can kind of fend off those guys that pit from behind, you're actually able to get some spots. We saw Morales actually kind of battling with Eric Schaus about a lap ago. He got a little bit of dirty air that kind of pushed him back a little bit, but I'm very, very curious to keep watching how Joseph Morales' progress goes, because as the race continues to go on, both him and Haisong both did not pit that last time around, and they found themselves in a position that they don't normally find themselves in the top 10, and it's actually working out for them. So if this strategy works out and they just pit under the normal circumstances, they won't fall a lap down, and they may actually get a much better result than if they just kind of followed everyone into the pits from before.
And so speaking of pit stops, I mean, we're on lap 33 here. Again, we have those couple laps under yellow, so I'm watching the 60, and I'm wondering if he's about to duck in. No, he's not. So again, the fuel mileage, we were talking about 26 laps on full rich. Again, we've had 2 cautions, yes, but we're on lap 34 now of this race. And Joseph Morales has still yet to pit. So some really good mileage out of this number 60 car to be able to stretch it as far as he has. So I think at this point he's in a great position as well. And unfortunately for Charles Teed, progress has started to slow a little bit for him in that number 50 car. And I think it's the same thing as I think he's just kind of, when he gets close enough, he gets that wash a little bit worse. And you just figure out where to put yourself in the wake of those cars in front, and just hasn't been able to find that rotation. And I think that's where now you see Hobson and Durazo. And actually, as I said, here comes Morales. And now he's going to now jump into pit road. Locked him up a little bit, hopefully down to pit road speed. And so he's going to get his first service for the night.
We haven't talked much about Nick DeGroot since the restart here, but he's picked himself back up, and he's knocking on the top 10 right now, getting that lap back. He's managed to get by Chris Stouffer, and I watched the last lap, the two of them. Stouffer had no desire to pass Nick whatsoever, and I think he knows that Nick is on a mission, and I think he's waiting for Nick to open all the doors that he can for Stouffer to kind of follow his way through. So this is a good little pairing here that we also want to kind of watch as the race goes on to see how much progress they can make. Of course, it doesn't seem like they're making much progress on the guys that didn't pit on the last time around, but I wouldn't count these two out to do something kind of crazy in the next bunch of laps here as the pit stops begin to happen.
And so here's the story of the race to me is now here's Joseph Morales. He just pitted. He's still on the lead lap. And so now, again, he's got to let his tires warm up a little bit, and then he's going to be able to kind of go pretty much just go full song, foot to the floor here. So I'm going to be watching Edson and Matt here because this is going to be the first that they've really had.
Whoa.
One of them's going to have dirty air out. What do we got?
We got 3 wide into turn 3 right now. It looks like Eric Peterson and Jeff Hysong had some contact in turn 2, stacked everybody up. Mark Murphy's connection still seems to be a problem, and it looks like it's a bit of a mess back here. I believe Nick DeGroot was trying to set up Hysong, but Eric Peterson did a little bit of a dive there. Might be worth going back and take a look at that little bump there because it kind of stacked everyone up.
Yeah, let's go try to take a look here. We'll see if we get back far
Murphy
enough.
makes a pass on, I believe that is DeGroot. Yeah, so DeGroot passed Murphy, and then Murphy passed DeGroot again. But yeah, you can see in turn 2 there was a little bit of contact there, and it kind of stacked everyone up behind.
Yeah, they had to all.
No one knew where to go. Everyone was kind of like set up for how they're going to take turn 3, and all of a sudden it just turned into a 5-car pileup going there. But this is a bunch of guys that didn't pit and then have pit that all have now come together in a certain point. And it's going to shake up to be very interesting once these guys decide to pit and then the guys that had pit before come forward. So watch this bottom of the top 10 battle very closely because you got a lot of championship contenders and good drivers here.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of big names in that group. You see Mark Murphy now leading Nick DeGroot. Nick right on his rear wing. And that little bobble's really separated these guys as well because you can see Murphy and DeGroot there. Peterson and Stouffer are about a second back in front of them, or behind them, I should say. Forsyth, same thing. He's in his own little island just in front of these guys. And then up front, I was talking about the potential with that number 60 car. And here's Joseph Morales. He did get passed by Edson, and Matt's right now side by side with them. But I think this whole process, look at little by little, Charles Teedy starting to creep back into the mix. You see Hobson and Durazo doing the same, Schaus dragging along as well. So again, now that we've seen that you can pit and not lose a lap here, again, because Joseph Morales, he was not in the top 3 or 5. He was a little bit further back and still came out in the lead lap there. Obviously dropped behind now. However, and there's my answer. I wonder if this is worth maybe trying to do a little bit of short pit. And you got 3 guys coming in, Hobson, Durazo, along with Matt Wagner, apologies. And I think they could go further, but I think this is you know what? I think we're going to be better off if we come in early, stay on the lead lap, kind of working the road course schedule here where you basically kind of work the laps backwards now.
Yeah, I find it interesting that it looks like Morales did lose the lap there. I wonder if he had a bad pit stops cycle. That
I think he just couldn't
there.
break the draft was the problem.
Okay, so that
he was
that
out ahead, and then they chased him back down.
Yeah, so it looks like that tends to be the same strategy that we were discussing before. But it seems like a lot of these guys are going to be pitting probably in about the next 8 to 10 laps, I would imagine. So it would all kind of cycle back again. But yeah, you see Wagner and those guys pitting right now. We got more cars coming into pits as we speak. So I think pit stops are going to begin to happen naturally here. And I think even if someone had pit a little bit earlier, if they can't really find a way around, I think they're going to try and pit to see if they could jump someone later on down the cycle.
Yeah, and I think these are all the lap 9 guys that pitted under that yellow. Again, Morales was the first because he had yet to pit at all. And so now I think Craig, now Mark Murphy, these are the guys leading the lap 14 drivers that had yet to pit. So, and again, you can see right now, looks like they're just going to continue to go a little further. And that's going to be where we need to start watching lap times as well. As Mark Murphy just right now puts down the fastest lap of the race of 41:17. So again, right now you're trying to get that big, kind of those big overcut laps, if you will. And look right in front of Craig here. He's going to steal some draft there. I believe that is the 18 of Jeff Heisong that's right in front of Craig. So this is going to be an opportunity for them to steal some draft of that car in front. Maybe one of those things where just pull as hard as you can, get as much draft as you can, and then dive in before you really start to feel the effects of that dirty air. So, yeah, strategy is going to be very interesting here over these next couple laps for these guys that pitted at 14:15.
I'm wondering where Matt Wagner is going to cycle out compared to the guys he was racing. He was swapping with Forsyth.
He's right now with Edson still, and again they've got about that second and a half on Teed and Hobson and Durazo. So they're gonna have to basically they need to start doing the same swap drafts to try to chase those two up in front. As Durazo last lap, he put down the fastest lap of the race of 41:15. So yeah, pace is definitely picking up. Peterson and Galaz are both on pit road as we speak, getting their services done and down and away. And looking at pit stop time right now, it's looking like roughly around upper 8 to 9 second pit stops here. So again, these guys that are going further, like Forsyth, Mark Murphy, looks like DeGroot has decided to jump in too. If they can go further, that final stop, I feel like, Andrew, they could maybe put that little bit less fuel, maybe gain about a second or so. So I'll have to see if that comes in as a potential way to gain some track position towards the closing half of this race.
I believe Murphy is coming in this lap, so he may drag Forsyth down with him. I don't know about what Stouffer's strategy is right now. It seems that he's kind of working. He was working with some people before, but he may have been saving fuel along in the process there so that he didn't have to worry about it later on. Stouffer stays out, so I think he's just going to lead a lap here and see where it leads him in the next few laps. But yeah, it looks like we're going through a whole pit stop rotation here where we thought people might have been saving fuel. It doesn't seem that's the case. So
no, I don't think so either. And you mentioned Murphy; he is in pit road. Sanchez, Colley as well, and then just focus on Nick Wheelers. I saw him coming in. I worry he may be our first penalty. That looked really hot to me on pit entry for that number 88 car. So we'll keep an eye on the pit stop times. So far, everybody's been able to mind their P's and Q's, no penalties. You see Craig now, he's going to peel in. He was just catching the draft of Joseph Morales. Now he comes into pit road, and that's going to bring Stouffer as well as Mitchum. Jim Herrick, though, he's going to stretch his legs in that number 40 car as we start lap 45.
Looks like I'm watching these guys come in right now. I want to make sure that they hit their marks and everything. It looks like Stouffer had issues on the last pit stop, so hopefully he jumps in this box nice. Looks like nice and clean in the box. Up on the jacks, gets new tires. Looking also up here at Mason Mitchum, clean in the box. I don't know if Mitchum is taking tires. Oh, yep, he is on the jacks. I didn't see him go up there, so it was just the angle I was looking at. But it looks like these guys are going to fall back a little bit handily. Back over to, I believe Jim Herrick has not pit yet.
Yep, he's in right now.
Jim Herrick has now come in. So I believe Stouffer's going to fall back. I believe Mitchum's as well is going to fall back. So got a lot of varying strategies here. I'm not really sure if any of them are the winning strategy to kind of save enough fuel to get in there. So I think some of these guys are going to continue to save fuel, and I know you have your favorite driver to watch on the fuel save situation, so we could talk a little more about that.
I'm curious on the fuel situation. I'm not sure if I don't think it's going to be an issue, honestly, because right now we're on 47 of 105, so again, we're about, just over 60 to go in this thing. So with that number, I think these guys all, no matter what, need to make 2 more stops, if I'm not mistaken. So I think it's going to be, I don't know if there's any strategy or not, honestly, for anybody to save to cut a stop out.
Yeah, I think if you're people that just pit on this last go around here, like Jim Herrick, even looking back at Mason and Christopher and those guys, they have to save some fuel for sure. And if you're kind of just sitting in no man's land and let's say 7th or 8th place, just battling with someone, I think you could save a couple of teaspoons of fuel in each corner and keep doing that for the next 52 laps or so. And if you do that the right way, then you could split this until a 28 and a 29 laps stint here, and it's possible. It's very much a stretch, and you always need a car around you in order to do that. But if you're able to pull that off, that's not off the table yet.
Yeah, and so right now, we've kind of got a tale of two strategies in my mind. You've got the top five; they all pitted in the lap 39, lap 40 window. Then you get to Mark Murphy and Craig Forsyth. They're about 3 seconds back. They pitted at 44, 45. Nick DeGroot pitted at 43. And then you go to Eric Schaus, unfortunately, a little further back, who also pitted at 40, like our top drivers, along with Haisong as well, around lap 40. So what we're seeing is, I think, just a lot of drivers are having to try to find some partners here to work with to make this gap close on Edson and Matt, because once they opted to start swap drafting, it really made life difficult for all the other drivers. Like I said, Teed's been the only one to be able to stay within touching distance, but just hasn't quite been able to find a way to break that bubble of like about half a second to a second. Just hasn't quite been able to get there yet. And I feel like part of it here, to me, Andrew, is I haven't seen, the only person I've seen that really is willing to try to do that third lane, that rim riding, if you will, has been Daniel Durazo in the 2 car. Everybody else seems to really want to stay middle bottom of the track through the turns. But I really think if you've got that dirty air in front of you, I think you've got to run top to just keep the front wing clean and send it back after it, because Teed again's dropped a little bit back off of these 2 in front. So yeah, it's a double-edged sword here. I'm not sure what's the best way to approach this here.
Well, you also know Nick DeGroot is going to run that top line as well, and he made the mistake the one time and clouded the wall down, but I think he learned what the limit was, and he'll try and figure out the best way to run that line there. I think Nick is a little too far back right now to really make a run for it for the lead, especially since he's kind of on the earlier side of the strategies. But don't count Nick out, because he'll always find a way to save a little bit of fuel and also run a line that no one's running that tries to outsmart everyone. So if he has a slower pit stop later on in the cycle, depending on how the race plays out, that's always a possibility as well. But I'm watching Daniel Durazo too, and I don't know if he's on a fuel save or what right now, but he's battling AJ Hobson, and these are 2 guys that do not save fuel routinely. They want to race, and they're putting on a good show for us right now. So while everyone else kind of around is hanging back and maybe saving fuel here and there, we got at least a battle going on here for 4th place. And I don't know if these guys are just saying, you know what, let's just race and see what happens, especially if there's any sort of caution later on that kind of throws it out the window, which is always what you have in the back of your mind.
Yeah,
but guys are definitely trying to go for it right now. And
yeah, like
I
said,
don't think we're really going to know what's going to happen until around like lap 65 or so of what the fuel situation is.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be it. It's going to be working backwards to, okay, now we're in the window. Who's been able to stay out to that last pit stop? But yeah, right now, like I said, it's been Matt and Edson pretty much after the second pit stop that have just really been able to control this thing. I've already said a few times, Teed's trying to basically he's done the best to try to hang on to the 2 of them. And then it's a bunch of drivers just trying to find their dancing partners to I think, kind of try to mimic the swap draft to get back up to those guys. And then you see the threesome there of Murphy, DeGroot, and Forsyth. But then you go back to this gaggle, as they say, that you see the one just kissing the wall there off of 2. I mean, you've got Haisong there, you've got Peterson, Stouffer, Morales, Schaus, Wheeler, Herrick, and Mitchum. There's some big hitters in this pack right now as we just hit halfway. The problem is there's so many of them that I don't think they've been able to really kind of reorganize the way they need to. And now there's been a small breakaway with Haisong, Peterson, and Stouffer. They're going to try to see, I think, if they can stretch their legs on those guys behind them. But, I mean, that's what we have right now is just a couple little packs of cars that are just trying to bring themselves back in. But actually, Hobson and Durazo, the tandem of Murphy, DeGroot, and Forsyth, they've chased them back down. So we'll see. Maybe there's going to be a change of the order. Like, hey, we caught you guys. Let us lead this pack. You guys kind of tag onto the back of us, and we'll see if we can chase down Teed, who again is kind of just still rolling solo, trying to do everything in his powers here to keep up with Santos and Wagner, who again are just working this swap draft, it feels like, to perfection at the moment.
I actually agree with you 100%. It looks like I was watching DeGroot trying to save fuel a little bit behind Murphy, but every time Murphy turns into the corner, DeGroot turns into the corner at the same time, and it's been very, very bad. Like, I'm a Nick DeGroot for sure, where it's like, okay, I'm going to save fuel and try and save a little bit of clean air and fuel off you, and next thing you know, oh, I'm doing the same line as you. So he's been losing a little bit of time there, but you're right. No matter what's been happening, Murphy's been running the optimum line, and now it looks like he's passing both Hobson and Durazo there. So this will be a 5-car train, and you look at the back of this train, it's Craig Forsyth, and he's like, yep, I'm just going to sit here, and I'm going to lift, and I'm going to save all the fuel in the world. So I think it seems like Craig is the fuel saver is back in action here, especially because he knows that Hobson and Durazo both do not want to save fuel, and they're going to just keep battling to make sure they're the front car. And Forsyth can just sit there and find the clean air and just save all the fuel he needs. If we need to save fuel, that's another question. But looks like that's kind of the strategy for now. Forsyth has no desire to pass any of the cars up ahead of him.
Saw Nick there running as they obviously had the contact earlier, decided this time he's like, you know what, I'm going for it again. And now these guys are going to go too wide here into the tunnel turn. And again, this is where there's going to need to be that communication, that organization. So you might be able to hear, obviously I'm not able to do the driver audio, Andrew, but these guys need to be saying, okay, hey, let's make this happen. You see there, Durazo just caught the wall a little bit out of 3, and that's going to allow DeGroot, I think, to slip on by. Yep, he will. Craig's trying to follow along, but again, you can see he's lost the draft, or lost the inside line draft there. We always talk about that draft train. Now he's going to be able to send it. Look how deep he sent it there into 1. He'll fall in, I think, right between, yep, drops in right between the two of them there. But still watching lap times, and just, it's not going the right way. It's been in the 65s for Edson, 72 for Matt, 82 for Teed, and, well, 69 and 66 for Hobson and Murphy. So they're still within touch of them. But right now, like I said, Teed's just kind of, I don't know if Teed's happy about where he is because he can hold on to him, or if this is just one of those super frustrating situations where he just can't kind of get through that bubble.
Watching Teed kind of just, he's taking the optimal line, and he's catching them in some parts of the track, and other parts of the track they're kind of getting away, especially when the swap draft is more effective in turns 2 and 3. I think he catches them more in 1 and 2 when they're trying to figure themselves out of where they want to place themselves. So Teed's burning a lot of fuel right now, but he's kind of maintaining himself. He's not putting himself in a spot where he's battling with the pack behind him. So I think it might be okay for Teed for now. If he has a better pit stop, perhaps he gets a little bit closer and then he gets save fuel on the next run. But I don't really dislike where Teed's at right now. He's just kind of running his own comfortable race. He sees the cars ahead of him, not really pulling away too much, and he can kind of measure his race from there.
And you know, this gives us a great opportunity is to run through the field here to show off our drivers and the paint schemes, and if they actually come up correctly like they're supposed to. I'll try this again here. And so we're going to start off with, well, it was Matt. Now it's Edson Santos, our pole sitter. So we're going to start off with that number 20 car. Started first, running first at the moment. Matt Wagner started in third, running in second. Then Charles Teed up 6 spots into that third position in the number 50. Also up 6 spots is the 4 of AJ Hobson. And then running in the top 5 right where he started is Mark Murphy there in the 69. They'll drop a spot back to Nick DeGroot in the number 89 machine. Again, unfortunate early contact, so he is down a fast repair, so he's going to have to be extra careful for the remainder of this race. Then the next car in line, Craig Forsyth, the 99 car in 7th. And then Daniel Durazo up 9 spots in that number 2 car into the top 10 and 8th. Then we jump back to the next pack a few seconds back, being led, well, it was Eric Peterson. Now it's Jeff Heisong there in the number 18 machine. And then we go to Eric Peterson right now, rounding out the top 10. Behind him, you got Christopher in the number 13. had a little bit of a pit stop miscue that cost him a ton of track position. Unfortunately, hasn't been able to recover from that. And then we get back to Nick Wheeler there in the 88 and 12th. Eric Schaus right behind him in the 13th position. Then Jim Herrick in that 4D Raceway number 40 car in 14th. Mason Mitchum in the number 3 in 15th. Then got to go back a couple seconds here to that number 5 Rick Sanchez in the 16th spot. And then getting towards the latter cars in the lead lap will be Bill Colley there in 17th. Hugo Glaz in 18th, all still on the lead lap. And then Joseph Morales just made another green flag pit stop here, Andrew. So now he sits in the 19th spot. And you can see he's just now at the start-finish line as the leaders are coming out of turn number 1. So that's the time he's lost. Again, we saw him come out with the leaders initially, but he's lost some track position over the course of this run. So that's how far he's dropped, unfortunately.
I'm watching this battle here for the, what is this, the fourth spot with Hobson, Murphy, DeGroot, and Durazo. And at this point, if you're sitting this pack, it's how do I get myself back up to the front again? Because the top 2 especially have been working together to do a swap draft and everything like that, and they've managed to find themselves successful. And they may be on a slightly different strategy, but how do I get myself back up to the front again? And I don't think that these guys have managed to find a leader of the swap draft pack, because they all kind of seem to keep passing each other, and one leads one lap, and you see Hobson wants to lead, then Murphy wants to lead. DeGroot's kind of wanting to lead as well, and he wants to kind of pull away from this pack, but it's not really working. So they're all kind of stepping over each other, and all that's doing is putting us in a situation where, Murphy
right there,
goes a little...
Yep.
Yeah, and you could see...
Oh, that was a pit stop.
In real time, it seems like these guys can't really decide what they want to do, and all that's doing is letting these guys up front pull away. So I know Hobson's the kind of guy who does not want to just sit behind someone and just wait. He wants to be the leader of a swap draft situation. So you got overtaken by guys behind you, and now you're finding yourself in a situation where you're like, oh, I'm just trying to lead a pack here, and it's not really working so well. So now that we have one car leave the group there, it may actually kind of work out that these guys work together, but they're losing time more and more and more to the top 3 up ahead of them. And it may work out for them, but you got to figure out a way to get back up front again. And this is not it.
Yeah, so here comes Hobson. He's coming out of pit road. He's just ahead of our leaders here as they come out of 1. So should be able to swing by him. And you can see they're going to pick up some draft off of that 4. Eric Schaus, he's got put a lap down through his pit stop cycle. So again, now we'll see if the number 4, can he fight them? Is he going to try to fight them knowing that they have to pit soon? And I think right now he's just trying to do everything he can. Because again, if there's yellow, you want to be able to wave right back around to the front. As here goes Matt Wagner. He's going to go for an undercut here, Andrew. Jump in. I think he saw the traffic, said, you know what? I think it's going to slow me down if I keep going this way. So he's hopped in, as well as Daniel Durazo in that 2 car. So now Edson has gone around the 4 there of AJ Hobson. And that's going to now, again, you see Charles Teed again once more here, about that 1.3 or so seconds back. I almost wonder if that would have been a good spot for Teed as well to just jump into pit road, kind of like what Matt did. And so we'll see how much further Teed can go to those 2 up in front of him. And we'll see where Edson and Matt kind of cycled through here. So I presume we'll see Edson in. Yep, he's in this time. Teed is, yep, here comes Teed. He's going to hustle it in there. Oh, man, if he got that down to speed and time, though, that's a lot of track position gains there, Andrew.
Yeah, I'm wondering what their strategy is, because they can't make it to the end unless they really have a big fuel save coming. And Edson and Matt can do that because they have run up front, and they can kind of just sit behind each other and then kind of swap once they realize that they have to save a little more fuel. One guy goes ahead of the other. And I'm not sure about these guys up front that they can make it to the end. You see that DeGroot, Murphy, and Forsyth especially have stretched this a little farther, and they could possibly make it to the end if they could go another like 4 or 5 laps or so.
Yeah, no, it's going to be intriguing to see how far these guys can go. I'm also going to jump up front to see how the pit stop cycles have gone. And you can see right there Matt Wagner and Edson Santos once again locked back onto each other. Unfortunately for Charles Teed, he's a little further off than he was hoping to be. Looking at his pits in and out, everything looked good, though his times and everything like that, just unfortunately something where he just didn't quite get up to them. So he's hoping to steal a little bit of draft there off of Hugo. Hugo's in a hit period now. So I think right now he may have lost touch with these two up in front of him. So we'll have to wait and see how that goes. And up front, though, again, these three still continue to now lead with the pit stop cycles. And again, they did pit, like you had mentioned, Andrew. These were the ones that went around lap 14 originally versus lap 9 for those that just pitted. So they do have a few more laps they can go. And yeah, like you said, how far can some of these guys take it on this fuel run? Maybe that's going to be the winning strategy if they can either cut a pit stop out or really, really reduce it. Because right now, we'll wait for everything to cycle through. But as things run, I think everybody's going to have one more stop, even if it's at least just a splash.
Yeah, I think from here you can make it. You see Murphy and DeGrooter coming in. It's going to be one of those tight situations where these two can work together if they have a clean pit stop. I'm sure they're going to be jumped by Edson and Matt. They're going to come ahead of them, but I don't know if Edson and Matt can do that fuel save swap draft situation that I was mentioning before. DeGroot up on the jacks. He has a clean stop, clean in his box. Murphy clean in his box. And they're going to be jumped by Wagner and Santos. And I think that these guys can make it to the end if they work together. I'm not sure if Edson and Matt can make it. I'm waiting to see if looks like Murphy's kind of got out a little ahead of DeGroot there. So DeGroot's going to have to work to get back up to Murphy again. I'm not really sure if...
I think he'll have Hobson looks like, because Hobson's got ahead of steam, yes. So I think they'll be able to jump in together. And I can tell you Teed's fallen off, unfortunately. He's about 3 seconds off of Matt Wagner, so he had been fighting so hard to stay in that pack, but unfortunately they were able to just jump him enough during that cycle. So now there's only 4 cars yet to make their pit stop run of this cycle. Craig Forsyth, Christopher, Jim Herrick, and Mason Mitchum. And I noticed, we always kind of tongue-in-cheek, but also because he's very good at it, Craig pretty quickly was very happy to hop right back behind that 36 of Eric Peterson right in front of him. Because I think, like you talked about, I think Craig is going full fuel save in that number 99 car. So for this to work for Craig, first he has to make the number, of course, to get there. But then he's going to also have to make sure that once he does make his pit stop, he's going to have to find a friend to draft off of in this potentially final run to the checkered for him. So there's a couple varying strategies right now, but definitely on the outright pace side of it, advantage goes to Matt and Edson. The question mark is going to be on the strategy side of things, but we'll see. Nick DeGroot, Mark Murphy, looks like they've got kind of locked onto each other now, like you talked about here, Andrew. And last time by, Nick ran the fastest lap of the race in under the 41-second bracket of 40.92. So I think now they've got the combo they're looking for. They're going to chase down Charles Teed and then see if they can then do something with Edson and Matt.
I agree with you there. I think DeGroot and Murphy are working together, and I think that they're going to find that they're faster working together. And I think they pit on the right lap in order to save fuel to the end here. So let's see how it plays out. I'm not sure what Wagner and Santos have up their sleeves there. They're working together, but so are DeGroot and Murphy. So let's see who saves the most amount of fuel to make it to the end. I think Murphy and DeGroot are doing a swap right now to try and catch up to Teed, like you said. And we'll have to see what kind of plays out here.
Yeah, I'm looking at lap times as well. Murphy DeGroot's a 52 and a 49. Edson and Wagner's a 56 and a 58. So again, not a big gain, but it was a couple of hundredths. So, but you can see it looks like this is definitely the plan for these two going forward. It's okay, we're gonna work together. Here comes Craig coming in. So he's pitting, coming to 30 to go in this race. So if he can run another 30 laps in this final run, this would be the way to win this race. And so in my mind, the guys pitting now, I think, are the only ones who have a chance to make it from here without a pit stop going forward. So Forsyth, Stouffer, Mitchum, and then Jim Herrick. He's going to go even another lap, so he could be even better on fuel than these guys. It's just going to all depend on that track position, though. So for Herrick, though, the problem is he's going to be heading into the tunnel turn right now. Matt Wagner and Edson, they're coming out of turn 1, so he does not have a big lead, even with the pit stop advantage at the moment. So, yeah, this is going to be fun to see. You look in the background there, Charles Teed, here they come. You see the 50, you see the 69, you see the 89, you see the 4, and this was the issue for Craig Forsyth here. No friends, gets a great pit stop, but now has nobody to work with here, so he's going to be burning more fuel than he wants to. And I think right now, what Craig's doing here, look how far back he's dropping. He's just waiting. He's going to pick up Daniel Durazo, says, give me all your draft here. I think Craig has made his intentions clear. He is not pitting again this race.
Well, you know Forsyth can make it to the end. So if he can burn most amount of fuel, he can possibly catch up to this pack ahead of him. He was racing with them earlier in the race, and I think if he is able to catch back up to this pack again, he has a chance to get a few more spots. But yeah, he's already lost a lot of spots as it is, and I'm not sure if Forsyth is in contention to win this race because he has managed to stay out longer with the worn tires and everything like that. So I'm not sure if Forsyth can do it, but a caution can really change things up here. We really have no idea if something like that will happen where he puts himself in a situation where he's closer to the cars ahead of him and he can go for this win.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting to see. I think at this point, Craig is the furthest up of someone who can make it to the end. I do not think that anybody from Daniel Durazo on Ford can make it to the end of this race on fuel. I think all of these guys are going to have to pit again, and so based on track position, Craig is obviously in the best position just due to being the furthest up on track. However, it just really depends on how short of a pit stop do Matt Wagner and Edson Santos need. If they need a splash of fuel, it could be a short enough pit stop where it's not enough for Craig to be able to jump them for the overall win. So there's going to be a lot to see here. You do see, obviously, Mark Murphy was able to get around Teed, so now they've got 4 cars working together, and that's the crucial part is they need to work together to have any chance of catching those 2 up in front. But like I said, right now that 20-6, they've put on a clinic on how to do this swap draft, and you talked about it from the get-go, Andrew. It may not even be a swap draft thing. It just might be the clean air is king, and they've had the clean air running 1-2 doing the swap draft, whereas everybody else 3rd, 4th on back, they haven't really had the clean air to do so. But now, of course, with that 5-second gap, this is the opportunity for these other drivers to show, hey, we can run that kind of pace too, but it's just whether it's too little too late now.
I think I saw actually DeGroot touch the wall last lap coming out of turn 1, but I don't know if that's hurt the car at all or if there was a little bit of kind of like a sneaky play there to kind of hang in the back of that pack there and save a little bit more fuel, because I think this is going to come down to exactly that. Like, how much fuel did you save during that run there? I think DeGroot actually seems to be kind of picking up a few more spots here, so I think his car is okay.
And this is going to be not what Craig wants to see. Daniel Durazo on pit road, so Craig's going to have to find somebody else to work with here. Here comes Nick Wheeler as well. And so I talked about the road course strategy here. I think these are drivers that pitted as soon as they were in their window to make it to the finish. So I think 25, basically full rich is 25, 26 we talked about. I think that's the field number that these guys have to make. And so based on that, I expect to see, we're going to see Craig Forsyth once again probably drop back to Jeff Heisong, Eric Peterson, Joseph Morales, which to me says advantage once more is going to go back to, actually I think it's going to go to Peterson really, because once more he pitted a lap later than Craig, or sorry, no, I'm mixing up Peterson and Herrick, my bad. But yeah, so I think you see right here, I mean, you can see Craig that last lap by, yeah, Craig ran a 43.84, 2 seconds slower than the rest of the field, because he wants everybody by him. He wants all the draft he can possibly get here, because again, Craig's made his intentions known. He is not pitting again this race. And so that's what we're going to see out of this 99 car. So to me, I think everybody's going to be coming in at least one more time, minus the 99 car, minus the 13, the 3, the 40. And as I say that, here comes Teed onto pit road for his final scheduled stop.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see like which of these drivers are trying to stretch it, and which of these drivers are like, you know what, I'm done. I got to pit now to get more fuel because that group that Nick Groot's in right now is going a lot faster than say AJ Hobson and some of these guys that are considering. Ooh, we had a little bit of a close moment there out of turn 2 with, I think that was Murphy and DeGroot.
And you see Durazo, he's now trapped a lap down, but again, he made his final pit stop. Teed's made his final pit stop. Peterson's on pit road. He's coming out now. And I'm starting to see some strategies as well on this one, Andrew. It was 6 seconds on pit road for Durazo. That tells me fuel only. 6.9 for Nick Wheeler, fuel only as well. Peterson, 8 seconds. So that's tires on that car. 8 seconds for Teed. That's tires on that car as well. So right now, this final stop for drivers, it's that decision. Do you take tires? Do you take fuel only? Right now, you see Teed there right behind the leaders. He's now the first car 1 lap down as they run. And you can see there that cold tire is still trying to build that temperature up. I say this is going to feel like just deja vu for him, being once again stuck behind the leaders by about that second margin. The only difference now, of course, is once he gets his tires up, he will have fresher tires. But like you talked about before, I don't think it's going to offset that clean air from these top 2.
I'm trying to figure out what this group of Murphy, Durazo, and DeGroot are doing right now, because I don't think any of them want to leave this pack right now, but they also don't want to pit again. So I think they're just all kind of swapping positions randomly here. I think Murphy led the lap last time by. I think he's going to lead it again right now, but there's a lot of swapping going on here in this group that is trying to figure out if they can save the amount of fuel or not. I think they can. I think if they really kind of buckle down and do it, I think that they can save the fuel required to make the end of the race. But if not, we're going to see some splash and dashes here right at the end.
Yeah, and Joseph Morales, he's in for his final scheduled stop at 20 to go. And I do think that the 69, 89 Murphy and DeGroot, I think they are swap drafting as well to try to get back up to see if they can close that gap on Edson and Matt. But like we talked about right now, they're about 6 seconds off those front 2. So the lap times have been pretty good, but the problem is I think it's not enough at this point. Here comes Hobson. He's going to come in for his final stop. And so he's going to be one of our front runners other than Teed to make his stop. So we saw Teed, he took tires and fuel in the number 50. I want to see now what does Hobson do. Again, you see the swap draft. There's Teed right there. Again, the first car 1 down. We want to see, does this car go up on the jacks or not, or is this going to be a fuel only? And yep, jacks are up, so it's going to be tires for that number 4 machine. So he's going to try to come out somewhere in relation to that number 50 car as these guys continue again to lead the way here. And like I said, it's been a clinic by these two so far, but again, like you said, late caution can come into play. Mistakes obviously will happen. They got to make sure for that final pit stop they cannot make any mistakes. And also, I mean, if one of them gets a better pit stop than the other, that could change everything where they lose the draft with one another, or one decides to take tires, the other decides to take fuel only and separates them that way. So there's a lot that could happen in this remaining portion of the race. And I'm going to jump back once more to Craig Forsyth, who yet again, he's lost all of his drafting help in that 99. And so looking at lap times, and still a decent lap time. You see he's running a shorter distance here. But again, the problem for Craig is for the strategy to work, he needed people to draft with. And unfortunately, every time he got somebody, they came into pit road. And so it's just the strategy has not gone Craig's way. And the next cars behind him are Rick Sanchez, Christopher, who are about 7 seconds back. And that's too much time to give up. He's just got to hope that somebody merges out near him that he can pull draft off of.
One thing you got to remember is that this track is so big that if you try and save fuel and lose a half a lap, you still win this race. If you have enough fuel to save, no one's going to pass you if you just kind of let off the throttle. And I wonder if that's something that Craig Forsyth is thinking right now. if he can hit a fuel number for the rest of the race, we saw this with the Indy 500 with Alexander Rossi back in 2016, that he just kind of let back and let lift and everything like that. If you do it by yourself, you can actually save the fuel you need to save for the race, but you may have to fall back 2/3 a lap or so. But that's exactly what the pit stop time is. So you may not lose so much in one lap if you're trying to save it, especially if everyone ahead of you pits. So that might be what Craig Forsyth is thinking right now to win this race, is if he drops back so far and he's hitting a fuel number, he could still win this.
Yeah, and at this point, I mean, you can see he's starting to fall into the clutches of some of his teammates there with the 13 and the 40. Rick Sanchez is in that group as well, along with Mason Mitchum. So at this point, on the fuel saving side of things, again, just Craig was in the best spot, but has had no drafting help for a good portion of this run. So he's had to jump into extra fuel save mode, if you will. And so he's going to basically get pulled right into the clutches of these other guys who are on the exact same strategy, like Stouffer, like Mitchum, like Herrick. So now they're going to be fighting amongst themselves for possibly the win, possibly for third spot. We don't know for sure yet, because that's all going to depend on the pace that these two continue to make. Because, yeah, like you said, it depends on how long their pit stop is, what they decide to do, but we talked about that they won't lose a lap during the pit stop cycle, and as they come out of turn number 1, the group with Craig Forsyth and company, they just came out of the tunnel turn, so it's over a half a lap at this point, Andrew. So it's going to be pretty tight to, even if they do skip that extra pit stop, it'll be tight for them to be able to make it or to stay ahead of these top two.
I think one of those things is that the leader is just going to keep running how they're running and hope that a caution comes out. Because
here we go, first taker.
There.
So once again, Matt's going to come in a lap earlier than Edson. Not sure if this is by strategy or if this is Matt saying, okay, I want to try to see if I can undercut him. That way I don't have a risk of a yellow, because as I say that, I think Joseph has had an incident. Caution is out. He took a tow, but the caution has come out. Matt Wagner was on pit road at the time. This could be a big changer in the strategy of this race here, Andrew. You see Schaus, he's rolling out of pit road, and the pace car is going to catch Edson right now, waiting for him to catch back up. Again, everybody's waiting for the field to kind of catch and be frozen where it's at. So this is going to be very interesting to see, and I kind of wish it had played out, because I can tell you Matt Wagner, he did cycle behind Herrick and Stouffer and Craig and company. So what do you do now here, Andrew?
Well, I'm trying to figure out where the yellow came from. I saw that Morales hit the barrier in turn 2, but he also had contact the lap before going into turn 1. I think that might have been Peterson.
Oh, yeah, Peterson's got damage as well.
Morales and Peterson had
that's
contact.
The contact, yep.
But that didn't bring out the caution, because Peterson continued and Morales continued, but Morales hit the wall there in turn 2.
I think Morales had to tow, and that's what brought the yellow out, was when he took the tow. And yeah, right there, you see Morales, he got in the dirty air there of the 88, and just nowhere for Peterson to go.
That wasn't the caution. They both continued.
No. Sorry. So I think, yeah, they both somehow stay pointed forward. But we'll stay here with Morales. You can see the car completely broken. And so I think we're about to see is, I think at some point further up here, he stops to then go ahead and take a tow, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's what I had seen on the... actually, he catches the wall there. And, yeah, right here, that's going to be the caution right there. He takes the tow, but he was stopped on the racing surface. And so that's the cause of the yellow there. Tried to make it to pit road. Unfortunately, just didn't happen. So we'll jump back live here now, because this is going to really change the outcome in this complexion of the race. The 20, the 89, the 69.
You want track position.
They all got to pit.
Is king.
So what do you do here if you're Stouffer or Craig? Do you stay out? And answer
yes, you
is
absolutely
yes.
Stay out. You absolutely stay out, because track position is what matters here. It has nothing to do with getting the new tires. You'll see some guys that maybe get some clean air early on to try and get a few spots here and there. But if I were sitting in 9th or 10th spot, I would not pit, and I would try and stay out and hope for the track position. We saw Joseph Morales earlier in the race. He was running in top 5 and he lost no spots. So
Yeah.
good luck to those guys that try and pit there to get something out of it. But I think you want to try and stay out here and hold on to any positions you can.
Yeah, it's going to be intriguing. You see Teed, he got the wave around. He's going to get the free pass. Also, look at all the cars in front of Stouffer. They're going to all wave around here in the one to go to get back on the lead lap. Unfortunately, we talked about the championship battle. There's one car that's behind this pack. That's Eric Schaus in the 72. And again, he was one of the main championship contenders with Mark Murphy, who was second in points coming into tonight. So with that happening, we see Mark Murphy. He's in that pack he's in that lead pack. So yeah, this is going to be a tough one for him. So, however, before we get to this, we're going to take a quick break because they've gotten green for a long time. So we're going to show off, again, our wonderful sponsors with 4D Racewear. Stay tuned. We'll be right back for the finish.
4D Racewear, makers of the ultimate sim racing shoes and custom apparel designed for sim racing by sim racers. 4D racing shoes are engineered to connect racers to the pedals in a way no other racing shoe can, all the while giving you the comfort needed to complete those double and triple stints. Visit 4dracewear.com and check out the latest sim racing products that let you connect to your sim.
All right, lights are off of the pace car. We saw those drivers swinging around there to get back on the lead lap. That includes Hobson there, Durazo, Wheeler, Highsong. All of those guys getting the wave around on the one to go. But again, unfortunately, trapping Eric Schaus second in points coming into tonight. And so his championship competitor there in the number 69, Mark Murphy, on the say he's right in front of him pretty much on the restart here. But again, he's a lap behind, unfortunately. So we're going to see how it plays out right now. At this point, Andrew, we've got the top 14 still have a chance to win this race. The top 4 drivers were going full fuel save. They were not going to pit again, but then the caution came out to change the strategies. Caution came out for Matt Wagner as he was on pit road. And so in that process, he was able to stay ahead of Edson Santos, who was the first of those to pit under the yellow, along with Nick DeGroot, Mark Murphy, Rick Sanchez, as well as Charles Teed, who got that wave round. So we're going to restart this thing. Single digits, 9 to go. Again, there are no green-white checkers here in this series. So at this point, you got to figure out when do you make the moves. Again, and also in iRacing, though, tracks over 2 miles have the short caution. So if there's a late caution, there is a better chance of having a restart. So you got a couple teammates working together here, first, second, and fourth. We'll see if they can hold off those fresh tires or not, like you talked about, clean air versus tires.
I think it's a good strategy for those guys that stayed out right now, like Stouffer, Mitchum, Forsyth. Forsyth definitely had something going on there, and I think he was just trying to hang back because if he knew that people were going to pit, he was going to be the one to be the benefactor. But I like what Stouffer and Mitchum and Jim Herrick did here. I think they're going to be the benefactors here as long as we stay green.
And I think what we're seeing right here from the 99 and 13, this is what they need to do as well. We've seen how well the swap draft work in the front there. If you were the 20 and the 6, I think they need to do the same thing up front here. So, okay, let's swap draft. Let's keep the pace of this race up because we don't want to pull anybody else into the thick of this thing. So I think Craig and Chris, they're going map 1 full tilt here. Any fuel saving that they did is hopefully enough with the yellows now to make it to the end. But here goes Edson. You see him working that third lane to the bottom. Going to try to jump Matt Wagner. You see underneath there is the 40 Jim Herrick. Jim's going to try to look underneath Mason Mitchum. Now it's all about the momentum out of 1.
I'm trying to figure out which one is the first car that pit for the new tires.
That'll be Wagner.
Wagner, yeah. So Wagner made the best decision he could. He was on a poor strategy as it was just because he was racing for a full stint there. But I think Stouffer and Forsyth are going to try and do the best they can. There's a little touch on the wall there.
Yeah, Edson was flirting
Wagner's,
with it there. And here comes
so Wagner
DeGroot.
picks up a spot on Mitchum. So Mitchum's going to lose a few spots here going to turn 1. And Wagner's got the fresh tire, so he could possibly make a run there for the win. But I think Stouffer and Forsyth had this figured out.
Ooh, Durazo caught the wall there out of 2. You can see the right front broken. I think that may have been Hobson potentially also involved. And he's got to be really careful here through the tunnel turn. Hopefully Bill's ready for this because I don't think that car is going to turn very well. And it looks like they'll stay pointed in the right direction, so we should stay green here. So we'll keep an eye, but we'll go back up front because, like I said, Matt's got there. He's got Edson once again back behind him. But again, they're now not the leading cars doing the swap draft. As you see there, Durazo hitting pit road. Also, I think maybe it was Peterson involved, so I see Peterson also on pit road there. So right now you see DeGroot there running that third lane. And right now you can see, I don't know if this is now these two fighting amongst themselves or if they're trying to kind of do that swap draft in third and fourth, but Craig and Stouffer doing everything they can here, come to 5 to go to hold these two behind at bay.
Looks like Mitchum is kind of falling back a little more. I think he's dropped down to possibly 7th place now. So that didn't work out so much for him in terms of going for the win, but he's going to get a better spot than if he had just hit along with everyone else. So Mitchum's kind of hanging right now in 7th place. I think that Wagner might have something for these guys up ahead of him, but also if you just have Stouffer and Forsyth doing a swap draft, I don't know if that's really going to be anything that can be beat from anyone else.
Gotta say, watch Edson here. He's got to the rear wings of these guys. He's going to try to do something, and I think Craig saw he knew he had to make that swap draft happen before Edson got there. Stouffer's going to have to do the same thing entering 3 here. And like I said, what they need now is they want these guys behind them to start fighting amongst themselves. So it's going to be tough now between these two because Edson's going to go for it here. I think he's going to get the momentum. He's going to go bottom 3. Nope, Craig's going to jump top here. So now they're going to go 3 wide. Edson takes the point. We'll see what Craig can do here. Again, this is tires on the 20, old tires on the 99. But now he still has a great draft as he's going to take a look here through the tunnel turn.
I think Forsyth goes for it. I think Stouffer should go for it also because he needs to make sure that he has a lot of speed going down in turn 3. He doesn't right now, so he's trapped behind. And he's got to make sure he has clean air. If there's anything with the old tires, you need the clean air. Stouffer struggles through turn 3, and now he falls victim to, I believe that's DeGroot.
DeGroot right there in 4th, yeah. So right now, Forsyth again, right now these two are basically doing the swap draft with one another here. And you can see there the fight for the clean air there between Stouffer and DeGroot. Stouffer drifted up. DeGroot had to try to react. Oh, we got trouble in the back. This could bring out a yellow. Oh, big hit there on the outside. There's the caution out. And at the time of yellow, I believe it's Edson ahead of Craig, ahead of Stouffer. And it's 3 to go. We'll pick up 2 at the line. I think this may be it, unfortunately.
That's going to be it for this race. And it depends on who is ahead at the time of caution. But, yeah, I don't know who was involved in that wreck back there. But
I think Teed was 1. We'll jump back here. We'll focus
on Bill Colley is 1.
Yeah, I think Teed and Colley are both involved. So this is kind of coming into turn number 1. It happened out of turn 1. So we'll watch here as they come through, and then we'll back it down. And you can see, oh, yeah, right there, the 88 just drifts up into the 50. And then then for Teed, just at that point, he's just along for the ride, unfortunately. And again, that just might be, obviously we didn't see what was in front, so very likely some dirty air there as well. And so for a moment, Teed has it saved, but you can see at that point, you see the right side tires, they're just flopping around. And then Bill Colley, unfortunately, you saw him following Joseph Morales, just didn't quite pan out for him. And then you see further up there is the 88 of Nick Wheeler also involved in that one. Same thing, had to come to a stop to just from that car being broken, Bill Colley as well. And so at the time of the yellow, and actually what we can do here, Andrew, is we can we'll watch when the flag right there. So we'll pause it right at the time of yellow on the flags. It may not be perfect, but then we'll jump to Edson, and right here, that's where these cars were lined up here at the time of the yellow. You can see Edson clearly half a car ahead of Craig, who is just about a car length ahead of Stouffer. So that is likely our finishing results for tonight. We'll jump back up front, though, pick up the leaders as they hit the pace car, which I believe here we will see the white flag come out. And again, unfortunately, no green-white checkers here, and that's why you got to fight tooth and nail here in these final laps, Andrew, because you don't know if you're going to get to that white flag lap to make the move you want to make.
You always want to set up kind of a finishing position here, but you never know what's going to happen, especially with cars behind that are battling for anything they can get. And if they don't have any sort of position going here, you're going for like 9th, 10th, 11th, and next thing you know, you're in the barrier. And that just kind of ends the race for these guys. So you want to set it up in such a way that you want to win the race, but who knows what could happen.
Yeah, it's you never know. Like, yeah, and that's what makes it tough in this series, in my opinion, even harder than in the NASCAR side with the green white checkers. Is in NASCAR, it's like, well, if we get a crash of 2 to go, we know we're going to have at least another attempt or more. With here on the IndyCar side of things, they don't do that. So whether or not the move for the win could be with 3 to go, with 2 to go, you just don't know, and that's what makes it just everybody's gotten kind of all the more just amped up to try to get there. So I can tell you Schaus did get the wave round. Unfortunately, I don't think it'll gain him any spots. He'll wind up 13th tonight. But yeah, so I mean, the caution definitely turned the race on its head a little bit. I would have been very curious to see after the pit stop cycles where the 20 and the 6 came out in relation to the drivers that were going to stay out, like Forsyth and Stouffer. I think that would have been a very, very intriguing fight for the win on the staying out strategy versus going further on fuel. Or pitting versus going further on fuel, sorry.
It was definitely a very difficult race to call in terms of strategy. You always want to put yourself in the best track position, which I think a lot of these guys did up front, especially Stouffer, that was running perhaps in 10th or 11th. Now he finds himself on a podium spot. But you kind of have to roll with the punches here, and it seemed like we had a nice long green flag run that really no one predicted what exactly that could mean in terms of where you are on track and everything like that. But this race was one of those things where it's just kind of a gamble. Roll the dice and see where you wind up.
Yeah, exactly right. And the nice part is we'll be able to talk to both sides of the strategy tonight. With Stouffer and Forsyth going far on fuel, Edson going for the the pit strategy. Obviously having to take the tires, so we'll be able to find out and have a chat with them to do so. So while these guys all loop themselves back around the track, we'll start getting ready for the interviews as you've got Wagner and Stouffer here having their own little battle here. I think they want to see who'd won the restart battle there, and it looks like Matt was going to grab that one, so Stouffer's going to head to pit lane, and I think Matt's going to show a little bit of the frustration he had with the way that one went, as here comes the crew to finish him off there. So that's one of those post-race, just maybe get a little bit of frustration out, but I'm sure Matt's going to be not pleased with how that one went for him, unfortunately.
It's kind of how it works, right? You had a situation where you wanted to kind of have a finishing battle, and next thing you know, you're just kind of having fun with your friends. So that happens to everyone.
And to me, I mean, that's one of the things that's what makes me really enjoy league racing, though, is just the fact that you're able to try to do the same thing with these drivers week in and week out. You make friends and you learn each other really well, and to me, that makes it a great part of it, as well as to kind of get familiar with everybody and kind of be able to do this week in, week out, and you get to know each other, and yeah, it almost becomes a hang with being on track. So we're going to grab our third place finisher here, and that is Chris Stouffer. Andrew, I feel like a yo-yo might be the best way to describe the race for Chris tonight, because started a little further back. I want to say we discussed, you jumped, I think, 9 spots on your opening lap. Pit stop miscue, had to drop back again, pretty much back to where you started. And then from there, it was a tough one to kind of try to drag yourself back up through the field. And then obviously the fuel strategy, you guys opting to go long and try to cut a pit stop out. I mean, just take us through the emotions and the stress of kind of having to do all of that in one race tonight.
I certainly missed the whatever I needed to do on qualifying to get a faster time. So I was back there, but yeah, I shot right up to the top six in one lap, and I don't know how I did that. I just crossed the line. I'm like, oh, I'm six, okay. But yeah, that first caution, I totally blew the pit box and was in the back. But at that point, it was kind of a fuel mileage race, and even at that time, and then we got another quick caution, and then it really came down to it. And it was very difficult for me because normally I'm one that just likes to go all out and race, and so that was a lot of discipline for me to sit there, save the fuel, hit the fuel numbers, and I did not want to see those last two cautions at all. The first one especially because I was good to go on fuel, and Craig and was right behind me, and I knew he was good. So I was happy where I was. I was like, yeah, hey, everybody's going to pit. I'm going to be first. It's going to be good. And then got that yellow, and then it was just a shootout. And me and Craig did everything we could to try to maintain the front two, and just Edson snuck in there, and I was just biding my time because at that point, you never know when a caution's going to come out. You don't want to be the caution or cause a caution. But I was waiting for my moment to pop out there and try to regain the lead, but that caution came out, and I ended up getting third.
So you had picked up all the spots at the start of the race, but then you had that messed up pit stop there. Did you actually feel like that may have put you back a little bit, or did you feel like you were trying to make up the spots and you were saying, okay, I'm sitting here in the top 6 or 7 or so, and I want to stay here for a while? Um, what exactly went through your mind when you messed up the pit stop? And did you feel like you could make those spots back up again? Because it seemed like you were always kind of on the back foot after that.
Well, honestly, I was never in fuel map one again until the very end of the race. So at that point, I was trying to stay. I was in fuel map five, just trying to save as much as I could. There was plenty of cars in front of me, so I could keep up with the draft. So yeah, I know. Again, like you're saying, it's kind of not what Christopher normally does and drives up through the field. I was you know just trying to save fuel. It was going to be a long stretch at that point. I think it was like 32, 31, 31. But then we had that other quick caution. It was 30, 30, 30. And I knew that we could make it. And, so that was my plan the whole time, was just saving fuel after that mishap.
Yeah, I think Andrew put the nail on the head there, where it's like if Chris has Chris's way, it's map one, you're going for it all versus having to back down the pace and run a number. So unfortunately, say there's times where that strategy comes into play. And then, so do you think that also maybe played into, as we saw Edson and Matt, they were able to just kind of swap draft at the front? Is that just the clean air being able to do that, or do you feel like everybody else was going the fuel save route, or was just the clean air king like Andrew's talking about tonight, where you just, even if you were doing the same, you just couldn't kind of get past that dirty air bubble?
No, the clean air is always king here. It's easier to swap. Me and Craig were on old tires and we're able to swap very easily. Um, So yeah, it's you know being up front, especially at Pocono, it's kind of like Indy. It's where you want to be. And I never really got a whiff of it until the very end, and I was hoping we could hold them off, but third place, it's not bad. After bad starting position, screwing up first pit stop, and then it was a little bitter saving fuel. That whole race. Um, just to get a caution there at the end, but that's just how it goes sometimes.
Wow, I mean, like I said, it was an up and down day, but I say it's always good to end on the up note. So, really good job tonight, Chris, and definitely want to give you the floor for any thanks and shouts for that podium this evening.
And shout out to 4D Racewear. Thanks 4dracewear.com for sponsoring me. Make sure to check them out. They got good apparel and everything. The league, you guys up here in the booth for broadcasting us. Thank you for doing that.
Great job tonight, Chris. And like we said, there's some new fun things coming out from 4D Racer soon, so definitely keep an eye on that as well. So good job tonight, Chris. Look forward to see you back on track soon, and go grab some more podiums, man.
Thank you.
Chris.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to jump from one 40 Racewear car to another. And that's going to be one spot forward, and that's going to be Craig Forsyth. And obviously, Andrew, the strategy was similar between he and Chris, but I feel like that last run of the race there, Craig, prior to the yellow, I feel like you were probably, well, and one, I know it's gonna be a tough interview. Hopefully you get your voice back soon, but you were probably waiting for some friends, because it seemed like every time you had someone to draft off of, they peeled off on the pit road. You're off by yourself again. I mean, how painful was that behind the wheel, just keeping on losing your drafting help for the field number?
It's just part of it. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. My throat is terrible right now, but it's part of the fuel save strategy. I mean, when you're up, farther forward in the pack, like I was, it's harder for you to get guys to draft with after they pit. And yeah, on the second stop, it was just the guys who had pitted were too far ahead for me to catch their draft. At which point there's no option. You have to fall. You either fall back or you've lost. Like you're committed at that point to the fuel number. If you burn the fuel, you've lost all of the track distance. You're now 15 seconds behind the lead. You'll never make that up pushing, because the guys who have pitted are already pushing. So you just accept that there's no choice, fall back. I think it was going to be really interesting. Like, I know Chris and I had the same fuel when the caution finally came out. We were both, sorry, all four of us, Jim, I think it was Mason was the other one, and I think all four of us were going to make it. It was just going to be really interesting to see if the guys who, Matt and Mark and all those guys that were on the alternate cycle, Nick, if they were going to be able to run us down once, when they were, pitting, because of course they were going full beans and we were very much not. But that was going to be interesting. And then, but we had saved, we had enough fuel that we knew that we didn't need to pit. Even when the caution came out, we could go full beans. So it was unfortunate that we, got caught like that, but we knew we were still going to be able to challenge everyone. And I mean, good on Edson. He was able to double draft past both of us down the straight. We should have given up on the snake on the leapfrog at that point and just started snaking, but it happened so quick. And then suddenly Edson was up there, and I mean, it was just the caution came out right when he happened to be ahead. So that's how racing goes. And good on him being in the right place, right time.
So you were sitting at the back of that pack, Craig, and it seemed like, we saw you dropping back more and more and more. And I think that Gael had said that you had really fallen off that pack there. So was that a matter of you just aiming at a fuel number for the rest of the race, and then you make it, and then kind of like be the surprise Alexander Rossi type winner, as I mentioned during the broadcast? Or was there something else that you needed to help you make that finish there?
No, I was intentionally falling back to the guys behind me. That's how I ended up falling back to Chris. I think he had Daniel in front of him the whole time, and that just shows that being a little further when you're on a fuel save strategy, being a little further back in the pack gives you a lot more pit cycle lapped car options, where I lacked those options because the guys who pit come out 6 seconds ahead of you. And if there's no one who pitted 6 seconds behind you, then then you have no one. Like, I think it was on the second one I came out and I had Ericsson, Peterson to draft with, and it was glorious because, he's going full beans and I just got to follow behind him the whole time. So yeah, no, it's just how the strategy works. You've got to, yes, at the speed I was going, that's how slow I needed to go to keep making the fuel number. But of course, once the group behind me caught up, then I was able to go back into picking up the pace again, thanks to having them draft.
Well, I don't want to quiz you too much because I want to let you save your voice and rest up, Craig. So before we do, I'll say any quick thanks and shout outs for that runner-up tonight, sir.
No, I've got to thank Jim over at 40 Racewear and Chris. I mean, we got a second and a third double podium, so that's a good result tonight. And Matt had a great setup tonight. It was good and challenging, and the guys were having a good battles and stuff all over the place. And it was nice to see, thanks to the lap 10 caution, the fuel save strategy became available. And, so it was neat to see how the two very differing strategies were going to come back together at the end of the race. that's the type of racing you want to see. You want to see multiple strategies, and hopefully next time we'll just get the green flag to the end, and we'll go across victory lane.
All right, great job tonight, Craig. Go rest and look forward to seeing you next week, sir.
Straight to bed for me. Thanks, guys. Stay safe.
All right, take care.
Good night, Craig.
Yeah, saying tells you the dedication from these guys, feeling under the weather, but they still want to race. I say it's one of those things you can't get away from. So, but then we got to jump one more spot here, Andrew, and that is our race winner, Edson Santos. He was working with Matt most of the race, doing the swap draft, running away from the field. Caution comes out, changes everything, but Edson was able to get back to the front and be able to be up front there at the time of the yellow. I mean, Edson started first, finished first, but a lot, of course, happened tonight. Just how did the race go for you? I mean, could it have gone any better, really?
Yeah, good night. Good night. Hello, everyone. First of all, I am a lot with strong headache, but we love this. We love simulation, so even we did that. I was here. I love this track. In a race full of alternatives, because at the beginning I was trying to save fuel because the race could be 100% under wind. And after the yellow flag, the beginning, thought it would be very hard for anyone to make one last stop, and that's why I didn't stop in the pits to fill up the tank. And Matt and I changed drafts. Great lean shot, very well done. We could manage to open a gap to the car behind, and it was pretty fun. But throughout the race, I was realizing that some drivers could stand their stops, and I thought that 2 or 3 could win with one less stop. It would be very interesting, right, to see if they would be able to make it. But the yellow flag came in the end, and I was one lap to go to the pit, my stop. And in this final, some drivers choose the not change tires, and I thought it was a little bit strange, despite the temperature being lower, but it was very important in the end to have new tires. And so I was in 6th or 7th. And I had 10 laps to try again positions, and I was lucky to find the space, the specific rooms until I got the P1, and I believe the fight would be between me and Craig, but the yellow flag came out in exact moment I was in front. So I think today the luck is smiled at me.
Yeah, it seemed like you and Matt were the 2 cars that were working together for much of the race. So you guys were doing the swap drafts and everything. So when it came to the end of the race and you realized you picked up that yellow flag there, that kind of switched things up a little bit. First question is, did you realize around lap 80 to 85 or so that you guys were like on a whole different strategy and that you were gonna run out of fuel? And the second question is, when did you decide that you were going to work together with whoever was around you to make sure you got this race win? When did you feel like you lost this race before the yellow? Because you guys weren't going to make it to the end.
Yeah, I was actually I was checking the other guys behind us, and I could see Greg Forsyth extended his stint in 30 laps, 31 laps, and when I realized they stopped with 30, 31 laps to go, in this moment I thought maybe they are gonna have few enough to go into the end, and I was regretting that about that stopping in the first yellow. but the cars in front of them were stopping, and maybe with clean air, with not condition to save more fuel. I was thinking Craig and another guys was running too slow, and the gap between us and in front for them it was 24, 25 seconds. And so in that moment, I was thinking to make my last speed and not change the tires, to make my pit faster. That's my idea in order to get them, because it was pretty possible they could make this race until the end with one last stop.
I have to ask one more question, and it's that this is your second podium now, or sorry, second pole position now in 3 races, and we've seen in 2 of those 3 races that you have gone from the pole position to the win. So do you find that you've found something in terms of qualifying and putting yourself out front in the race and staying there and coming up with a strategy that puts you out in front to take advantage of some clean air out front and working with someone to take the win, or is the pole position and the win separate in your mind, where it may be just kind of how you finish the race is just how you've been running up front all race?
Yeah, it depends of the track, because in some tracks like Pocono, you have a great advantage to be in front, P1 or P2, P3, and behind it's a little hard to face the dirt air. And so another race like the race I won some weeks ago, it was pretty important to be defending the inside line, and so the pole position was pretty important. Yeah, depending of the race, and then I could improve my quality, mixing my bars. That's what I have done. It's just a shame that at the beginning of the season I had so many problems, so many incidents. So I was far from fighting for anything in the championship. But next season I will try to be more regular, more constant since the beginning. Maybe to fight for something there.
Well, I say you've been coming on strong these last few races, and say we don't want to keep you. Say it's unfortunate. Say sorry you're having a headache as well. Hopefully the win helps that a little bit tonight too. But before we let you go, of course, Edson, need to give you the floor. Any thanks and shout outs for that win this evening?
Yeah, I'd like to say hello for all my teammates here in Brazil. Linear Energy Racing, great guys and great drivers. We are the 17, 18 drivers, and some of them are preparing themselves to be in international leagues like this one next season. So to say hello for all of them.
All right, well, great win tonight, Edson, and good luck to you and all your teammates on the National League. As they look forward to, definitely let us know how those races go. Would love to see the results there too. So, go enjoy this one, go rest, go feel better, and hope to see you next week, sir.
Yeah, I'll be there. Thank you. See you guys.
All right, Andrew, that is our race winner, Edson Santos. And so, say 2 of the 3 on our podium, say fight under the weather, fighting some things. Craig obviously got either some sort of a cold or something like that, unfortunately knocking out, say killing his voice a little bit, then Edson fighting through a headache as well. So, like I said, these guys love to race, and they'll push through whatever to be able to race. And like I said, sometimes the best medicine is to do something that distracts you from it and ideally get a win. It's a really nice way to feel better. So before though we get to final thoughts, we got to pull up our final results here, and let me see if I can get them to actually show up correctly. If I can, that's not what I wanted to see there. I'll say some technical difficulties. We'll say there we go. So now, can I pull up the race results? Otherwise, we might have to do these manually.
It's all you, my friend.
I'm pushing lots of buttons and I'm not getting much yet.
Okay, well I know Edson Santos got the win tonight with Craig Forsyth second, Christopher third, Nick Groot wound up finishing fourth, up 12 spots from his start there. Wagner came home P5, Mark Murphy P6. Mason Mitchum comes home P7 after staying out there at the end and kind of falling back a little bit. And then we got Rick Sanchez in 8, up 3 spots from his starting position to 11th. Jim Herrick comes home 9th. Jeff Heisong 10th. Both of those guys moving up from their original starting spots. H.A. Hobson unfortunately finishes 11th. He was caught up in a little late race scuffle there. Eric Schaus also caught up in a late race scuffle. Nick Wheeler comes home 13th. And then, of course, our DNFs there, we have Charles Teed finishing 14th, Joseph Morales 15th, Bill Colley 16th, Daniel Durazo 17th, Eric Peterson 18th, and Hugo Galaz with an early exit in 19th.
That looks spot on, and yeah, so unfortunately, technical difficulties getting the best of us at the very, very end. So I think that taught me a lesson maybe of maybe I have to do the final results before the interviews because, yeah, say, unfortunately, you see on the overlays here, say we're, oh, what? Are we getting somewhere? No, we're not getting somewhere. I got helpful there for a second. But yeah, so no, unfortunately, a little bit of hiccups on the very, very end of it, but didn't affect the broadcast, so that's always the most important. And yeah, so Andrew, as always, pleasure doing these with you. We've got 3 more to go. Next week we'll be at Phoenix, and then quick off week before we get to Kentucky on the 14th, and then same thing, 1 off week before we get to the finale at Auto Club Speedway. And I mean, probably biased, but Auto Club Michigan, again, those are 2 of my favorite tracks. So having the finale at those 2, this time at Auto Club, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Looking at the point side of things, it is now 65 points between Schaus and Murphy, and then Matt Wagner jumps up 1 spot into 3rd, now 77 out of the lead, and then DeGroot drops 1 to 4th, and then Joe Branch is up a spot. And actually, I'm trying to, did Joe? No, Joe did not race. I was like, he either had a really quiet night or I'm not sure. That's where these drop weeks are starting to kick in, I think, as well for some of these guys. So, yeah, so we'll see how everything shakes out in these remaining 3 races. But as always, Andrew, it is a pleasure doing this with you. It's a lot of fun. Always appreciate all your insights. And yeah, somehow we're down to the last 3 races of the season.
I'm trying to figure out exactly how some of these guys that we didn't even really see coming wound up in our interview room. Like we had Christopher that was kind of hanging out around 11th or 12th or so, finished on the podium. It's really kind of exciting to see, and it's unfortunate that we had some sick people talking to us tonight. Usually these sick guys just kind of want to take a rest or whatever, but just kind of shows what the dedication is to Area 51, and these guys love racing with each other, sick or healthy or anything like that, and it's really, really nice to see, and I really do miss being on the track, but I also like to hang out with you and call these races as well. So we'll go into these last few races of the season. I'm pretty sure Mark Murphy's got this just about locked up now. I'm not sure if he has it officially statistically locked up, but it's going to take a lot for these guys to shake Mark Murphy, and I think he's going to have a couple of very, very bad races for anyone to really show their face here. So at this point of the season, guys like Edson that qualify well and wind up pulling out a win based on their qualifying, like we interviewed with Edson there, it's going to be a matter of let's get ready for next season, and let's see what kind of tricks you can pull out of the hat there to make the best end of your season and get ready for the next one.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, I lied about the points. I just refreshed it, and it's actually Matt Wagner now in 2nd, 75 out of the lead, and then Eric Schaus 77 out of lead in 3rd. So Matt's actually jumped Eric Schaus, and then DeGroot still sits in 4th, and then Edson Santos actually jumps all the way up into 5th spot. And I was trying to figure out why I was missing something. I was like, well, wait a second. If someone wasn't here, he had to have dropped spots in Joe in this case. And so that's where we were missing it. But no, you're exactly right. And so of those 11 starts for Mark Murphy, Currently, his worst finish is 14th at Las Vegas. So that's a hard number to beat just because of, again, just the sheer numbers. I mean, that's really, really impressive stuff to only have one finish outside the top 10 so far this season. So like I said, he's going to have mistakes, and he knows it too. He's just got to be smart, not take any risks that he doesn't need to take. And I think he should be able to clinch this one up pretty soon. I don't think it's officially able to be clinched yet, just due to the number of points that you can get per win. So we'll have to wait and see. Can't count the chickens yet. So, but yeah, so that's it for us tonight. Andrew, again, love having you in the booth with me. Everybody that watched and chatted with us on YouTube, thank you all so much for supporting us. And I will be back in the booth on Thursday night to cover the Area 51 Super Speedway Truck Series, covering for Boomer this week because he's got some real car stuff going on. So looking forward to supporting him with his team there as well. So Boomer, hope you have a blast doing your racing. And yeah, so for us, that'll be it for tonight. As always, until next time, though, take care, stay safe, have a good night.